Let's talk about champion select that we are about to jump in. We have less than 1 minute, so we're about to just around the corner. There he is. What is the priority? Bifrost chose red. What can we talk about?
There are so many power picks to go at this point.
Okay.
I don't think there is any one thing which will determine this draft. You've had plenty of time to experiment now. We've seen some variations of similar drafts, particularly with Riddle playing towards big team fights and then just achieving different team fight combos. We have seen Bifrost flex between team comps which have more of side lane impact, less side lane impact, but it hasn't really been hinging around one or two picks. There's a lot of flexibility here. I'm not really sure what I favor here.
I want more Silas. I do not want to see this Azir again. Honestly, ever again. I don't want to see the Furious Azir. Like, I think he's such a good Silas and like melee player, assassin player. I think they should just play for it, right? Riddle are really confident now into this Azir. They have their answer. They have the outrange composition, and they will pick it. So please, no more.
So we've still got Aatrox on the table, still got Lucian on the table, still got Azir on the table, still got Silas on the table. The Varus has been a power pick, I suppose, or high priority. There are an awful lot of things which are going to make it through this draft. It is, as Goldborg would say, an overloaded draft. The overloaded draft. The Lucian, the Aatrox gone. Two very strong laners which have a very good one-item mid-game spike. But that has left Silas and Azir open. We've also seen that Bifrost very happy to Varus plus X on R1, R2 to secure themselves a strong laning phase bot side to stop Cabo having impact. And of course, we have the CEO of Teamfight CC and Enchanter Goodness, Seraphine, just picked up for Riddle.
Incredibly high priority for this team. They're clearly going to go for the big wombo combo team fight again. So maybe they're moving away from that, that poke heavy style. Bit concerned. I think they were a bit worse at this, than the other composition. But you can blind Seraphine, and it's been strangely high priority this series. Honestly, I wouldn't particularly rate it this high, but looks like we're going to answer it with some hard engage with Jarvan.
We've seen an awful lot of long-range carries in this series. I think the Jarvan is typically a good answer to them because his engage range is effectively infinite. He's just going to fly his way into the backline at some point. I am less fond of the Varus if you are doing this, though, because Varus, as we saw in that last game, couldn't actually stand and fight. Couldn't actually auto-attack for one, but then also couldn't really find a way to follow up onto the prime targets at that point. So while this does have strength in the early laning phase, Bifrost have utilized that for better in most games, but even if there have been a couple of stumbles, I don't see how this affects it. I don't think this is really fitting a deep dive team fight combo, which would reach something like the Seraphine.
I kind of like taking away the Jarvan, actually, now I realize it. Stefan had a really good Jarvan performance, and it takes away the Jarvan plus Seraphine combo, which we were seeing. You ult the backline and then you follow up with the Seraphine.
It's like really a better hack room, right? Which we saw.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm a really big fan of the Viego on Stefan, honestly. His micro and his performances individually have been really good. And it looks like, ooh, the outrange once again, really good into the Jarvan. The
problem I have with this now is when they had the Viego with the outrange last time, it was with the huge burst combo of the Ziggs, where you are putting in 2,000, 3,000 damage onto a target, which is if they're CC'd, that's just instant pop. Viego always gets that reset. With an Ezreal with a Seraphine, yes, you can throw some ultimates through. There's not the same level of crazy one-shot value, which gets the Viego resetting very early into a team fight.
You have to ban Lissandra here.
They're putting an awful lot of burden onto Stefan again, and considering how Stefan has played this series, absolutely great to do that, but it is harder for him to do so. So a lot of burden, less easy to play.
Yeah. I'm not sure if he plays at Facen, right? Because he's a bit of an odd player, right? He mains Akshan mid. So if he was objectively he played everything. Lissandra plus Viego is a disgusting combo. On top of that, being decent into the Akali, right? So maybe they look for that. But I guess they assume he doesn't play it. They're gonna leave it open. They're gonna target.
And I think the problem is now, right? Seraphine doesn't really like being support as much anymore. It really is bot lane, mid lane. So I'm sat here going Ezreal, Seraphine. Maybe on some patches I would have gone towards that, but I think you need to give resources to Seraphine, otherwise that champion is not really valuable.
Yeah, makes sense. So they're going to target Nash and his roamers and his engage. The Rel Dan is interesting because you wouldn't associate Rel and Ezreal as a strong combination, in my opinion. But yeah, it looks like they're going for it. And then it looks like you're going to target top laners because Shikari, fun fact, has been spamming Olaf. He loves this champion top lane. I think it's really
He played that a lot in summer too, actually. Now, it didn't always work, but it's just something which it counters so many of your traditional bruiser matchups and your fighter matchups that you don't really want to add that variation into it because Shikari has had very strong laning phases on the whole in this whole series. Now we're into game 5, right at the razor's edge. You don't want to give over those side advantages to really see what you can do at that point. We could have the original Seraphine, the Sona coming through, pink and blue, but it really doesn't do much for you in laning phase. It's going to be the Varus Karma again. You are losing the push either way. Do you double down on it and say we're going to scale like a absolute whatever? Or do you have to pick something else? I much prefer this. I do much prefer this. There's much less ability to burn down the Soraka in this game.
I think it's going to be Ornn now. You ban away the Olaf and the Camille, just screams Ornn to me. You need a front line to face check bushes. I think it's almost 100% going to be an Ornn. And then on the flip side, you match it with some kind of anti-tank again. It might be the Fiora again, although that's banned. So maybe it's the Darius. He has been playing Darius a bunch. Shikari has.
Yeah.
I guess we'll have to see.
I agree with that in a team comp setting. Aragon,
Oh.
which lane do you gank as Stefan? Who do you play towards?
That's
true. The thing. If you have the Ornn, you can't gank top side. Not really. You can't do anything for your bot side. This Jax, to me, is saying we need something to play towards. They've got to get a carry in there somewhere. So the problem is, while you now have a top lane which you want to put resources into, you've given counter pick over to Shikari. So while it is a strong individual champion, if Shikari has a good enough answer, it could get very difficult.
I was going to say the Renekton. This is the go-to ban in the LPL. They ban Renekton away to pick Jax because you can just coordinate dives. In isolated 1v1, this matchup isn't so bad for Jax, but with attention, it's not nice. It's pretty grim. So yeah, standard counter. It's good.
A lot of attention to the top side then. They're going to prioritize those picks. Probably adult fight is going to be an interesting one. Rotation from the bot side to that one. Which leads us to the question. The 1,000-year-old question of who's going to take this one, Riddle or Bifrost?
It is all in top jungle 2v2 for me. Because
I didn't ask that, Nightmare.
Riddle cannot play around anywhere else. And if it's that much burden onto Jax, Plank, and Stefan, Shikari and Faith have had a good series. I'm giving it to Bifrost.
Okay, wow.
Yet again.
I actually disagree. Okay. Look, guys, if you want to know what the biggest single counter to Renekton is, it's Enchanters. Just straight up, it's Enchanters. He cannot function later on. He also has a terrible time into Jax later on too. I think with how long games have been going on average, and how Riddle has becoming better over the series, I think they take it.
So for the first time, the desk is not agreeing with each other. Let's see who wins this one. I mean, Nightmare kind of won the game of the quiz, so maybe Aragon, you can win this one. Let's toss it.
I give him freebies every so often.
Do you though? Yeah, keep telling yourself that. Let's toss it to the casters. This is end
Game
test.
5, let's go!
And the one I don't mute, it's Duck.
That's ruthless. Nice transition, guys. Really nice.
Thank you, Asher. You're such a kind guy. I love you as well, brother. Game 5, ladies and gentlemen. And before we head into it, I have a couple stats. Before Bifrost joined the NLC, they had only beaten Riddle once and lost 6 times. After that, they've done a lot better. They've won 5, lost 3. But overall, they're still down 9-6. So they have a lot of ground to make up as these two Norwegian powerhouses continue to battle it out in game number 5.
I mean, we said it right in the beginning of the cast. This is going to be the best quarter that is going to be delivered on the Aurora Open. And I mean, we just have to, it's just a fact, right, that this series just keeps on delivering. Riddle finding a pretty much 10k, like a win from a 10k gold deficit. And now with the range advantage in the last game, finding a pretty confident win as well. And now we're in game 5. This is where you just have to throw all of your other plans out the table and you just have to go for something that is comfortable and that you know that you can play. And what is comfort for these guys? I mean, Riddle on Viego and Jax. These guys, I mean, they've been playing so many games of these two champions. And I really agree with what Amaya said, right? It's going to be so explosive on this top side. And if Jax can get ahead in this game, I think Renekton as well is going to have struggles by finding something to be useful on this champion. But if Bifrost can do what they've been doing time and time again, right, which is to snowball Shikari on whatever pick he's onto, I think it's the same goes for Riddle, right? If they don't have that Jax snowball, it's hard for them to play the game.
Wow. This game, one last game for the last spot in the Aurora Cup Open semi-finals. I really like the point from Aragon about the top lane matchup because these games have gone into the 30-40 minute mark, and that's when the Renekton falls off. We saw that in game 1 when Jax played the Renekton. He had his strong points in the mid game, but in the late game team fights, he didn't have the exact impact and then lost the game.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to this, right? The teams have just, you cannot really hide anything, right? You cannot hide some picks for semis or whatever. You just have to throw it all out there and duke it out. What I will say is an advantage for Bifrost is the fact that they have been able to find so many openings on this top side. Sure, Jaxbank, when he was on the Renekton, he was winning lane in isolation, but he never really got any attention on the top side. I think if Faith can do the same and visit Shikari as he's been doing so many times, the Jax when behind, it's really not a champion. If Renekton gets ahead, he's gonna stay ahead, and even at the 3-4 items, it's gonna be useful if he's that far ahead on this Renekton as he's been on other champions. But you cannot allow Riddle to gain momentum, right? You cannot allow them to stack the Drakes up and get them sort of for free. Bifrost has to go all out this game, and I just cannot wait. I mean, the fact that this is a pause as well, the nerves are just building on the players. They're just so stressful right now. I love it.
And one of the interesting things that was highlighted as well was the fact that the Soraka this time locked in for Riddle, but it was more safe. And that's because Faison, for example, is playing the Seraphine as well. So they have so many defensive tools, which to me is great for Riddle. But I really liked Faison 6. It was so good, and the poke just won't be nearly the same level this time because, yes, Keva will do a lot of damage, but last game, the damage from Keva was followed up by a bomb or two from Faison, which then took the target down to around 20% HP.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, right? This time around, as you were mentioning, he's not going to have that same follow-up. Kevo, a lot more pressure this time around on him to be sole poker pretty much on his team. And if he can dish out the damage, I mean, Bifrost cannot really sustain it back up. But as you were saying, he's not going to have the backup of a Ziggs this time around. So really, really looking forward. I mean, I talked about it, right? It's all about the comfort in this game 5. And you have Jax, Viego, and Ezreal is pretty much all staple picks for Riddle.
Last time there was a lot of fighting around the Drakes, and I think it will be important to see which sort it will be this time. Not the mountains, so the teams won't be too tanky, but for example, the ocean on Riddle, they'll be so hard to kill with all that sustain. So a more damage-oriented Drake, I think, will make it less prioritized, whereas something like an ocean will be prioritized so heavily by both these teams.
Yeah. Ooh. I mean, so much pressure once again, right? And Bifrost bot lane, they already know. Level 1, so important when you're playing against double. I mean, when you are a range support and you're playing as a range support yourself. Riddle, they are gonna walk up to this lane, but they're gonna get poked down, and the poke is gonna be so important in lanes like this. If Bifrost can get the push level 1, which they are going to, right? I mean, they're playing Varus Karma. If you don't get push, you're doing something wrong. But they are gonna be able to keep the pressure in this lane for the first 6 levels.
The intensity is kept up as the laners are looking to clear out the first wave, get the level 2 spot. Until then, the junglers are also clearing that first clear. So they will do the full clear, at least on their starting side, and they'll go to the opposite side, of course, to take those camps there, which means it will be Faith rotating towards the top side, while Stefan pathing towards the bot lane.
Yeah, and I really hope Jaxplank is able to stay safe on this top side. He's not gonna have that jungle backing him up. If Faith can find an opening, we both know how when he's far behind, he cannot really achieve much. And Jaxplank really has to manage his wave perfectly here to not get punished by Faith and Shikari.
One I really want to highlight in this game 5, not someone we will expect that much action from early on, like Faith or Stefan, but more Fury. When Bifrost have won, it's because Fury has been one of the main carries, his Silas and his Akali in particular. When he has been on things like the Asir or the Swain, he still had some fights where he's done some good damage, but he hasn't been able to have the exact same impact, and I'm really looking for him now back on the Akali to have the impact he had in game number 3, but they did come out on top.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, right, as you were mentioning, and when he's playing these assassins that are allowed to make flanks happening, it's so much easier for him. I mean, you saw how good he was at finding these opportunities, and now he's on the Akali once again for game 5, a true comfort champion, pretty much all across the board of every single player on these both two teams. And as I'm saying that, as you were mentioning, both junglers, I'm pathing towards different sides, but Jaxplank didn't really manage to mess up his wave, so he's gonna be able to farm most of this under tower, but Shikari and Faith, I mean, they're playing Jarvan or Nekton. They could just look to one-shot this Jax if they get the opportunity.
But it's if they get the opportunity, and for now, no one will take that yet. The jungler's completely even here in terms of their pathing. Obviously, not meeting each other, so they will both get a scuttle as soon as it spawns, and now they have a bit of a window. You can see Stefan using it to recall, but Faith looking for a gank, and where is it? Of course it's the mid lane. It has always been that mid lane, and he will force the flash from Faith.
And it looked so easy, right? I mean, Faith doesn't use anything, just his EQ combo forces Faith and Splash. And already now you can just imagine that Faith and Fury are gonna revisit that mid lane once they get 6, and Faith is just gonna be a sitting duck basically for that gank. Really well played there from Bifrost. They noticed the opportunity, and even though it doesn't result them in any gold lead, that flash from Faison is really crucial to get down.
Yeah, TP already used as well, so that's a cooldown that is also incredibly long in this early game. No neutral objectives on the map for now, of course, but there is a Drake spawning in 30 seconds, and while it would be early, I would not be surprised to see one of these junglers try and secure that one early on with the extra time that they will have after this clear.
Yeah, and that's really silent early game here, and you can only imagine, right? I mean, Riddle has such good vision actually already in that river. They will notice everything that is happening there, and if both teams looks like they just wanna contest this, I mean, they are going both sides. Faith is gonna have to path towards that top side though, because his camps are gonna spawn, so nothing he can really do about that. Gets spotted out by that ward. And Faith, he's feeling himself, he's going for that invade by the looks of it. Maybe gets the Raptor. Oh, he gets it with the flag!
The swag flag stole a couple of the small ones as well, so he's very happy with that one. So he's able to walk out safely as well. Down on the bot in no kennel. Getting poked out here, he is able to take the CS.
Yeah, but the crucial part is, right, Kevo is playing with that teleport, so Kinal is stuck in lane. He cannot really base. He has to do it now when the cannon has spawned on that lane. But Kevo, if he wants to, can just decide to push this one out, and maybe they can look to make this window happening to force the Drake. Doesn't look like it right now, though, as Stefan is taking his cracks. Faith is going back towards that mid lane to try to punish Faison.
The flash has already used it, but doesn't connect it. He misplaced it. I was so confused, but it should still be the kill. One more auto to get it. It got too close to comfort, but in the end, Bifrost secure first blood.
And that's the thing of when you make the correct play happen, you know that Faison doesn't have flash. You don't have to play it perfectly yourself, but the idea is there. They get that first blood onto Fury. We know what this guy can do with a goalie, but quick timer, you might be caught here, buddy.
Oh, he's rotating so safely, but still not safely enough. Forced to flash there as Stefan and Ash rotated up into the jungle and pushed him out.
Yeah, but really well reacted there from Quicktime. I mean, the second he put that pink cord, he flashed away. But Kenan now caught between a rock and a hard place pretty much. He's sitting behind in his tower. It's really not gonna have that wave to make a play onto Kenan, and looks like Bifrost is just gonna be able to get out of it. First blood to them, and Fury 1-0 on this Akali in game number 5. We know what he can do when he's ahead on these assassins.
Highlighted before how much it would mean for him to get ahead and be able to assassinate, and that's a good start. Trading though still continues. Stefan stops the recall there, so loses some tempo as Faith is recalling up on the top side.
Yeah, forcing Nash that heal as well. I thought it was a bit early for the Soraka to use it, but now we see both junglers taking their bases. They are gonna be looking to clear their blue buffs out once again, unless Faith goes for a mid lane gank once again with his Cataclysm is available to him. Faison still has no flash. He has to still play so respectfully on the Seraphine in the mid lane.
4 games have already been completed. The last one of the day, the last one of this quarterfinal. Quarterfinals as a phase, as a whole as well, will also end here. And in all 4 games, really, it has been a slow and quiet early game as the teams were both ramping up to play for the objectives and play the team fights.
And this could just look to be the argument that Aragon was saying, right? I mean, the later the game goes, Jaxplank, he has been fine just duking it out on his own, basically, in this top lane. Not actually behind at all. I mean, a couple of CS, right? But that's expected when you're playing against Renekton. He is gonna be able to outscale him on the side lane. And Shikari and Faith hasn't been able to find the same success on the top side as they've been doing in the earlier games.
No pressure on Faith, but Faison, his flash along cooldown flag and drag straight into the Cataclysm. Fury will go in, 5-point strike, perfect execution. The healing though, not quite enough. I say, good read from Riddle wasn't enough to stop the play.
Yeah, and that's just again, right? Faison has no flash. They've been punishing that twice now. And you can imagine that maybe they will go for this Herald. I mean, they have full control on that top side. Fury, no, not happy to give up this mid prio. And while Riddle might look to trade for the Drake on their own, it's for sure a win for Bifrost. Let's take a kill and get the Herald on their own.
Most of these games, it has been Bifrost being proactive, and they're back to being that after a slow early game for them in game 4, where it was Riddle that set the pace. This is Riddle responding to the play from Bifrost, and Bifrost, in the end, happy to take the kill and get the Herald.
Yeah, 2-0 on Fury now on this Akali. He's actually gonna go for the Riftmaker, so expecting the fights to be really long, where he can both pop the Conquer and the Riftmaker. He's gonna scale so well into these team fights. And just looking at Riddle, sure, they end up securing that Drake for themselves. Maybe Stefan can get something in the bot side as well, because he knows that Faith is still on this top side. But by the looks of it now, both teams are just gonna be relaxing a bit, and now Faison can finally breathe a bit as he has his flash back up to cooldown.
Relief there for him, as he will not be punished yet again. Faith could wait for his flash and then try to predict it, of course, but Faison feeling a bit more confident here. I think it's exciting when you talked about the top lane matchup, because it's what the Desk really highlighted, and I think it's the point that we'll be looking at, because when it was Jax playing that played the Renekton, he played full lethality, full burst. It's not looking like Shikari will go down that route with the Conqueror. So what kind of build do you think he wants to go if you want to play more for the team fight and kind of negate the lack of scaling you could say Renekton has?
I mean, it has to be some sort of gold rank, right? But as I say, that Bifrost, Faith, and Shikari doing what they've been doing so well this series. They're catching Jackbrack off guard. He fails the flash, and he gives up a kill to Faith. That has to be tilting in this game number 5 of the series.
You can feel the nerves on pretty much both members here. Both teams have made mistakes as Nash caught out, flash forward to try and take him down. As the rain of arrows will find the kill. Kevo tried to trade back, but he jumped forward with the arcane shift, unable though to be taken down by Bifrost. They 2v2 kill Riddle.
And Bifrost, their bot lane is showing that they're not scared to make the plays happen, even though it's a game 5. They get the 2v2 kill going. As we were saying, Jax died on the top side as well. They're just gonna get a full tower, and suddenly Bifrost is almost 4k ahead.
We wondered how would they scale the Renekton. They didn't successfully do it early on, but that is how to get your Renekton ahead. Could have been nice to get the kill, but he doesn't care. He got a full turret there. And we can see how much that will mean when he respawns. Look, he's now 1,100 gold ahead. And not only that, Faith, by getting so much of that gold as well, is also 1,000 gold ahead compared to his counterpart.
And that's the crucial part, right? Because sure, Bifrost, they go for the practice play on the top side, but Riddle are not allowed to answer in any way of their own as their bot lane dies 2v2 in a game 5 like this. Bifrost really stepping their foot on the gas pedals in this one. And sure, Jaxpack didn't get punished earlier, but you see already now the Jax being more than 1k ahead, and Shikari going for that Gordrinky build. By the looks of it, is gonna be so tanky and able to buy so much time in this team fight. And it's just really nice to see that Bifrost finally getting a comfortable grip on this game.
What Shikari is doing here, no flash show. We'll have a hard time getting up, but Faison taking pretty low here by the 5-point strike. Shikari, Aurora hitting back. I would have been intrigued to see how I would have pulled that off without a flash, but doesn't want to flip it. The nerves are clear, I would say, for both teams, as even Bifrost, who haven't given up a kill, has made some of these plays a little harder than they needed to. Think back to the first spot, for example, on Faison. So both teams can feel the pressure, making some uncharacteristic mistakes, and that has actually accelerated this early game a bit further.
Yeah, for sure, right? And I think Bifrost they can't relax at all, right? Because even when they were 10k ahead, we have to remember Riddle found their way back into it somehow. So Bifrost, they're never gonna be able to relax until they see that Nexus exploding on the side of Riddle. But Fury going in for that 1v1, but he knows he has Faith on the follow-up. Faith gets hit though, but thinks he's gonna be able to walk this one out, and Faison once again now has to play at least 4.5 minutes without his flash.
Cooldown blown, and we saw what happened last time. It died 2 minutes within the cooldown frame of the flash. So eyes on Faith, how will he capitalize, of course, and more importantly, with objectives spawning in 1 minute as well, there are definitely objectives they could look to force Faison into and then play around the lack of that cooldown.
And I really have to give credit to Faith, right? I mean, you said it yourself, pretty much unknown guy, been playing in Challenger in Turkey for some time, but that was pre-pandemic, right? And now he's showing up on this team. Every single time he's on a proactive jungler like this, he finds the opening and he always snowball. At least his solo laners, right? Bifrost bot lane been really good at keeping standing on their own, and Faith has been able to put out so much pressure with his picks.
It's not really the same thing for Kenna, but some ways it's the same because LCL hasn't been happening ever since spring. So he has been still signed to a team but not playing competitively for all that time as well. So that's 6-7 months without any competitive experience. Just playing solo queue and playing maybe some scrims here and there, signed to Bifrost. And these two guys have both been performing well. And of course, quick time of Fury and Shikari. You can always count on these guys to perform.
That's the thing, right? Bifrost going undefeated in their group, just looking so strong, right? But this is the first time, same for Riddle, they are facing through Div 1 competition, both teams today. And this is the true test for them. As we've been saying that though, Bifrost gets a Drake on their own. Shikari's gonna walk down there to just make sure his team can get it, and then TP back to the top side to make sure Jaxper cannot get any sort of damage on this top tower.
It's not just that, right? It's two Div 1 organizations against each other, but it's also two of the Norwegian organizations against each other. Veneer already out of the tournament here, so they aren't really in the picture at the moment. So these are the two remaining Norwegian organizations. These are the ones that have been battling, especially in what is called Telia Ligaen, against each other. And when Riddle was the NLC organization and Bifrost only played in National League, Riddle had their fun, clapped them around with Bifrost. But with Bifrost this year has been a revenge year for them, only dropping one game against Riddle coming into this series. Lost 2 more here, but also won 2. And Shikari now has to deal with this dive, clears the mini wave, and just outplays it nicely.
Yeah, well played there from Shikari. I mean, he has popped his ultimate, right? No way they can dive him like that, but that gives Bifrost opportunity to go for something on the other side. They're just gonna secure this tower. Riddle, they're bottling. Kiev and Nash just have to stand and back off as the tower is gonna fall.
Stefan, though, despite not getting the kill top, will go over towards the Herald. He will be stopped by Fury here. Let's see what happens over there. As Jack's playing Shikari, also duking it out a bit here. Back to the Herald, though, as we want to see what's happening down there. So Fury just zoning out, but not resetting the Herald, allowing Faith to run up, actually. This is everything that Bifrost are gaining. They countered the gank top by getting a turret bot, and now also claiming the Herald. A massive cross-map rotation from them.
Yeah, really nice moment there from Kenan and QuickTime. I mean, they already got what they wanted in bot lane, which was the tower. They know that they don't have to catch any wave, they can just walk towards that river, walk towards that Herald, and they are gonna get it as well. So Riddle not able to punish the fact that Faith spent so much time on that bot side. I mean, Stefan tried to go for that dive somehow, but Shikari is playing Renekton, and he can just one-shot the wave and get out. And right now, Riddle just has to kind of respond to whatever Bifrost is doing, right? This is something that they have been good at doing, though. So maybe they can find that opening whenever Fate puts down that Herald.
Riddle not finding themselves in an unfamiliar situation, I think it's fair to say this series. They have, for 3 out of 5 games, or 4 out of 5, I can say with this game as well, found themselves on the back foot after the early game and had to come back. So they had the situation in game 2, they had the situation in game 3 and 1, and yes, they have only managed to come back once, but in all 3 games, they have managed to bounce back and make it a competitive game. They will have to do that here as well. But making competitive won't be enough. They have to win it if they want to advance to the semi-final.
Yeah, and you just feel it, right? Both teams obviously want to win for their organizations to get into the semi-finals where they can have a shot at taking down the title. And right now, I mean, both teams kind of finishing all of their first mythics. Kenan now been towards that rage trade as he's been doing so many times this series, playing bars so many times. And you just have to imagine, right, this next Drake that is coming up, even though it's only the 3rd one, could be the 2nd one for either of these teams. This is where we've been seeing all of the action going in this series.
Let's take a look at the items as well, because first items are being hit except for the supports. And more importantly, you can definitely see that it's the side of Bifrost who are closer to reaching that 2nd item spike. When they hit that, maybe they want to try and push that advantage, because for now, they don't really have that big of a spike. But they will gain that, and the help from this tier 1 trade will definitely be massive, as it is very looking for the fight on face and forces that flash cooldown yet again as soon as it came back up.
And once again, as you were saying, right, Faison loses his flash. Ooh, so close to getting the 2nd hit there. But Faison having to play without flash against the Jarvan in this next upcoming fight. Without the Encore as well, I mean, it's just gonna be super hard for him. Riddle needs to buy time for Kievo to finish up this Triforce, because that's really when this Ezreal is gonna be activated.
I think it would be really interesting to take a look at the gold here and see where are the leads. Assuming Shikari is able to get out here safely, 1 item on both of these top lanes as Jack's Plank takes a massive trade. But in terms of gold, just looking at it without actually looking at the gold, definitely a difference between Kennel and Kevo here, as it is Kennel with the lead. But in the other positions, the difference seem minor within that 800 to 1000k gold range, where you have a component more, but you don't have an item or half an item's difference.
Yeah, and this is the thing, right? We finally see Jackman getting his hands on the Divine Sounder. He's gonna be able to fight against Shikari now. I mean, you saw in that 1v1, he was completely dumpstering him. That's why I think it's really hard for Bifrost to just keep swapping their lanes around and try to get Fury matching into that Jax, because Fury is so ahead, he's gonna win side no matter who he's against. But Riddle, they know what's up, and they're gonna do exactly the same to make sure that Jackman can have this matchup into Shikari's Renekton.
Seconds here on the Drake, soul point for neither team, as they've only managed to pick up 1 each. A Cloud Drake, and this time it actually isn't, despite the logo up there. So this is obviously still nice to get a soul, but it's not as game-changing like an Ocean would have been, for example.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, right? The Basin doesn't have the flash, doesn't have anyone to back him up except for the Wish. He's gonna get popped here by Fury and Faith. And once again, they're punishing the mid lane. He's 0-3-0 in this game 5. And Bifrost, they're just looking to pressure this. Probably gonna get that Drake now. Let's see if Riddle can punish something on the crossbar, perhaps.
They have forced his flash 3 times, and they have punished him not having flash 3 times as well in this game. They know how to capitalize on the Seraphine mid pick, and they've done so perfectly. And all of 3 of those kills have gone on towards Fury, who will soon find himself his second item as. It is Jaxplank going for the dive here. Big heal from Shikari though. Jaxplank needs to be careful. TP as well from Fury. Doesn't have the perfect execution. Stefan on his way up as well, but Jaxplank able to jump over to safety with the wall.
Jaxplank really playing with fire there. If he gets stunned, he just for sure gets taken down. And now when it's a 20-minute mark, if you die, you can just give up the Nash, right? I mean, Kenon has his rage play now. They are gonna do that Baron really fast. If Bifrost gets an advantage and opportunity to do so. Oof. Yeah, that's what we're saying. I mean, Faison is just getting kicked over and over in this game. I mean, he's playing without flash basically the entire game. Doesn't really have the champions in his team to be able to backing up. He's forced to play in isolation. And Fury now finishing his second item already. Has the Morellonomicon, such a good item when you're playing as Soraka, Seraphine, Viego, Jackson, Ezreal. I mean, everyone is lifestealing. And Kevo looking a bit caught here on the Ezreal.
The flash will use their follow-up, of course, was there in Faith. Now the one trying to turn around with the wish, and they have to tuck tail and run, but he goes back in. Look at the other side of the map though, in the red side jungle, they're fighting as well, scrapping at the very least. Nash is low, forces flashes, now Shikari struggling to survive against Jaxplank. The team is disengaged in the jungle, but he's still committed to the dive, no dominance yet. Shikari running, leave strike coming through. The heal with the Godringer won't be enough. The red buff could just jump one more time as solo Bolu comes through for Jaxplank.
And that's Jaxplank activated. This is the win con for Riddle in this game 5. He hasn't even finished his second item yet, but suddenly he's finding himself so far ahead of the Shikari. Gets a solo kill, it's 30 CS up, has 2 kills under his belt. And this is, I mean, really good movement there from him. I thought he was just gonna get caught. I didn't even look at the minimap, but then Jaxplan appears like a magic trick and helps out his AD carry. Gets a kill onto Faith, gets a solo kill onto Shikari as well. And now he's really activated on this side lane monster of a champion.
Something happened in the jungle as well right there, forcing Nash's flash, for example, as it looked like the bot enough Bifrost tower to rotate down met. I think it might have been Faison and Nash. But they met someone there, forcing Nash's flash, and then they disengaged. So both teams thought they had extra reassurance coming down, but no one ended up having it. And instead, in the 2v2, Jaxplank just comes out on top.
And now, speaking about Jaxplank, he's level 14 against Shikari's level 12. It's all pretty much a story now about the solo laners. It's Jaxplank versus Fury in this final game of the day. They both are looking to have so much potential, right, to do something. And I think Jaxplank might even win a round now in a best of in a 1v1 against Fury. And Bifrost, they really have to solve this puzzle. They have 2 Drakes, but as you were saying, the Cloud Soul not being the best of souls. And Bifrost, they have to pull the trigger somehow, because if Jaxplank gets time in a side lane now with the Black Cleaver completed, he's just gonna dump the Shikari as we saw on that tower dive.
Game is back and forth. Despite the gold lead you're watching, we just saw Riddle can fight back, especially through Jaxplank, who is now ahead in gold compared to Shikari. Look at the items, 2 items to 1.5. And when we toggle over, I didn't have time to read it. Yes, 1,000 gold ahead now. So the lead for Bifrost is around your mid and AD carry, but it's a completely different story if you look isolated at the top lane.
And that's the thing, right? We talked about how Riddle, if Jax is behind, he's gonna have such a hard time of finding something proactive in this game. And Bifrost has done a really good job at punishing Faison, but he's not behind in farm, and he's playing the Seraphine. He is not gonna care if he's 0-3-0 once the team fights hits. And Jaxplank, once again, we have to talk about this guy, but I don't have time for that, because Faith, they're gonna waste no time. They're gonna start off the Nasher in silence.
They're just trying to sneak this away or baiting Riddle in. I'm not too sure, a questionable play, because they can't burst it down quickly enough. Forcing an ultimate, yes, but nothing else. Do they just want to try and brute force a team fight?
Ooh, yeah, that's the question, right? The golden question. And Bifrost are gonna take their time with this. They are not gonna be able to sneak that. And you have to imagine, Duckling, that we're gonna find ourselves in an opportunity once again for this dragon fight to be an explosive one. But I think Riddle could just also say, hey guys, we're not gonna take the fight. We're just gonna pressure with Jaxplank on this top side. For sure, be able to take that tier 1 down. And the pressure is all but slowing down for both of these two teams.
30 seconds on soul point as well for Bifrost. So soon there will be 2 objectives on the map. The decisions become even harder. Do you want to trade? Do you want to fight them if they're trying to take one of them, or just take the other? The mind games will become even stronger. And in game 5, this is where your decision making gets tested to the max. Your nerves, your ability to keep calm in stress situations has to be tested to the limits. As Shikari just forced to dominance here to clear the wave. He's 2 level down from his counterpart.
Yeah, but Bifrost is gonna be able to secure the Drake of that Riddle, not really in a position where Jaxpack can find a TP to make anything worthwhile about this kind of ultimate waves coming in from Shikari. And they are gonna get that soul point, as you mentioned, but it feels like Riddle are thinking the same thing as we do, that the soul is not gonna be deciding this game. It's gonna be an Elder or the Nasher, and Riddle, while giving up the Drake, they are gonna get control of this top side.
One thing worth to note as well, with this lead from Riddle only being in the top lane, that's the only place they're at. On the other sides of the map, they are behind. So whenever Jaxpack matches Shikari, they can be in the top lane, and Bifrost will be ahead wherever they go as a 4-man unit.
Yeah, that is for sure true, right? And while Shikari, he uses ultimate to be able to clear the way, right? If he can do that and make sure that Jaxpack cannot join a fight, then he's for sure gonna be doing enough for his team, and they're gonna win out on the 4v4, you'd have to imagine. But that's the thing as well, right? Stefan is once again on this Viego, and while he hasn't been able to pick up any kills, we know that if he gets a reset on this Viego, he's just gonna be able to take over the fight. So many potential carries on both of these squads.
Fury now might change Jaxpack here in the side lane. Does have the TP, so he's able to join at any moment when he is needed. He's the guy I want to look for in the first. Can he find the flanks, assassinate someone like Nash or Faison or Kevo for that sake? As Jaxpack just dominating anyone who tries to face him here in the side lane.
Yeah, not W now from Fury, he's just gonna have to back off. I think Jaxpack might fancy himself something here, but Fury playing it well. Oh, he dodges out so well.
Great flash there as the TP now coming through from Shikari as well. Fury will go back in. Perfect execution, not quite connecting, has to be careful. As Shikari will take the kill. Now look here as Faith might be going forward. Cataclysm already popped. He goes back in but misses the flag and drag. They force both sums out of Nash.
Really well played from Fury. That's why you see the Akali so many times into the Jax matchup. It's so good. You have so much mobility. You can dodge the counter-strike. But Kennel, he's gonna get caught here.
Completely whiffs. Kennel forced to heal, but still has his flash. Will heal off a bit here with the wave being there. So Baron's still on the map. No Drakes for 3 minutes. Jaxpack dead for 18 seconds. How much more can they force? They find Kevo, but he arcane shifts away. Flash in from Shikari to lock him down, but Kevo responds with a flash of his own. Fury, no perfect execution as Stefan persuades any further engage from happening, and now it might be Riddle looking for the fight as Jaxpack responds.
Jaxpack has to teleport to his house. Could be looking to use it. This is going to actually. Fury doesn't have flash.
Doesn't have flash, but has the 5-point strike and sure can flip. Obviously the Shroud is there as well. Perfect execution, soon up, back off cooldown, but they have so much unspent gold Bifrost that they need to use here. Baron could be started up, but at the very least full control will be going over to Riddle's favor.
But that's a huge cooldown from Jaxpack. Not having the teleporter on the Jax means he's gonna be stuck in a silent if he ever goes there again. I mean, wow, so many things happening. The Kano flashing forward on his Varus, being so ahead. He has 350 CS this early into the game, and Bifrost are once again gonna start off the Nash. They know Nash is in base.
Jaxpack is in the area. He has moved down to the bot lane. Fury very low at the beginning of the fight. The encore completely whiffs, but they're on towards Faith. He's down. Great 3-man slow there. Shikari as the last bit of frontline will fall. Now Kennel, no flash as he will be punished and routed. This is a great fight for Riddle, who can turn to the Baron.
Riddle bide their time perfectly there. Sure, Soraka was in the base, but it doesn't matter. They play it really well. They're kiting Bifrost engage, and when Jaxpack gets an entry into the fight, he's gonna take it. And Riddle secures the Nasher. They were 4k behind, but now they're finally finding themselves ahead in this game.
It's completely even, and I mentioned it earlier as well, them test. Riddle, this is a familiar situation for them. They have been in it 4 out of 5 games when you include this one. And let's take a look at it again. How did they find a way back into this game?
Yeah, this is really the question, right? I mean, Bifrost really starting off the Nasher here. I think they thought that they could punish Faison, but he has the flash. He can just use it. Even though Faison's encore completely misses, Riddle just cannot find the backline here. Jaxpack buying so much time for his carries, and when Faith is going down, they can just chase them down on the side of Bifrost, and Riddle secures themselves a Nasher. And now this is finally where they're gonna be able to really be proactive on this map, right? I mean, now you have Jaxplank 3 items. Pretty much all across the board, you have 3 items completed. And with this Nashor, you can really siege a lot when you have the Seraphine and the Ezreal.
Look at the items, yeah. Compare them to their opponents. Yes, down in the 80 carry position. Kennel is still slightly ahead, but in the mid lane position, Fury doesn't have 3 items. You know who does face him, but still Bifrost wants to fight. That's a great encore onto the bot lane of Bifrost, and they're both gone. They can find one back. Yes, it's on to Nash, but Fury has to find them all. Kiva though, Arcane shifting around. A triple kill for Jaxplank.
Jaxplank, man, is really activated. You saw him there. You said it yourself. The encore hitting so many targets. Fury buying his best to buy timer. He gets the wave actually to make sure that Riddle cannot get more. But Jaxplank dives towards the tier 1 tower when the encore hits and gets a triple kill for himself.
Soul point here as well, or soul rather for Bifrost would have been a thing, but it's spawning straight into the waiting hands of Riddle. So they are denying these crucial neutral objectives. They're winning the fights, and they are now starting to build a gold lead for themselves.
It's looking rough. I feel like Bifrost doesn't have enough damage to be able to deal with this Jax. I mean, you see it here. They're just sieging with this Nashor. The Trishna Barrage goes wide, but they don't care. They just have to use this the Baron Enchanted minion, right? And Faith, he finds a great engagement on Facer, but Facer finds himself on his own a great encore, which activates Jaxplank to go under the tower. He doesn't care. He just tanks it all up, kills Faith in the process as well. And then he just takes over the fight, and I mean, look at that man. He's tanking like 10 tower shots. He doesn't care.
He simply didn't care. You can see 3.5 items on him. And Riddle now with a lead in game 5. Remember, they were, when you really think about it, almost getting 3-0'd. Barely clawed their way back into game 2 after getting pretty comfortably defeated in game 1 and 3. So, massive comeback there, and they found another one. Building this goal lead even further with the Baron buff for the last couple of seconds.
Yeah, this is gonna be the final wave that they can use with this Nashor. But I have a hard time imagining they cannot really open the inhibitor tower. It will be a bit too much for them. But hey, it's not wasting time, they're going!
Yeah, looks for Nash, but yet again they find the great encore. This time onto both carries, but look at the Jax. He's having to jump out, but the healing just so massive. Stefan follows Faith. Incredibly low, but survives. That's crucial. All 5 members of Bifrost alive.
Faith, he finds the engage for his team, and while Bifrost couldn't follow up in the end, he cannot bait Stefan to go onto Bifrost's backline, and then they can just turn on him and chase him down. He was flashless. Faith, they're not looking down. Fury has to teleport, could look to TP. He's gonna TP to the bingo, then we'll chase this.
Down, but there's nothing to keep Jaxplank locked in place. He's just able to run out. Here comes the perfect execution. But look at the damage back on Fury. Now he's the one who has to run. Could go back in. Wants to assassinate, but decides against it in the final seconds. As now Faith falls. Bifrost, you've overextended as Jaxplank. Looks for the engage. Healed back up to full. Great flash predict to lock up the bot lane. Will be traded back though, but another great encore to seal the kill on Kennel. And they will chase down Fury, who can only stand and watch as he will get taken down by Kevo.
So much back and forth going on from this team, but in the end, Riddle finds the counter. They kite so well with their carries. Kevo having his Arcane Shift so many times in that fight, able to dish out so much damage on this Ezreal, and once Bifrost frontline goes down, he can just chase with his team, with Riddle, to secure himself so much damage, so many kills. And Jaxplank with that flash counter-strike as well, really clean, well played there from Riddle. Ooh, this game just keeps on delivering, Duckley.
It gets harder and harder though. Finally for Fury, 3 items has been reached, and we can see the burst that he has. But it's so hard to play, and they don't have the wombo combo there from Bifrost to really rely on. They have to play these fights scrappy. They have to find the flank. Fury has to assassinate the backline. But honestly, man, he needs to assassinate too many people. Nash, Kevo, Faison. And even if he assassinates all those guys with a miraculous 3-man lineup, still Jaxplank could, realistically speaking, be able to make the fight somewhat even.
That's the thing, right? I mean, Aragon predicted it pretty well. I mean, Shikari having such a hard time to finding something worthwhile in these fights. He has the flash to his arsenal. He has to be able to find at least someone on Riddle. But it's so hard with this Renekton. They have so many tools to kite him. He needs to find himself in a position where, first of all, Riddle doesn't have vision on him, and that he can find a flank going. But once again, it's so hard on this Renekton when you're not ahead in this game.
Baron back up in 30 seconds, so that would be the objective to play for. 1 minute and 20 seconds on the Drake. That is soul for Bifrost. Soul point for Riddle will be an important one as well, but obviously not as important as the Baron.
Yeah, I mean, you only have to imagine, right? Imagine Riddle secures a Nash as well, with Jack's Bank being 4 items and level 18 on this Jax. He's just gonna be able to open up your base like it's nothing. That's why Riddle are pushing these waves to make sure that they can control the river. And you already see so many wards on the side of Riddle into this river. And you just have to imagine, right, how can Bifrost really make anything counter? They have to push up this mid wave as 5, but they're not wasting any time. Riddle already starting this up. They're doing it so fast with Jax, Seraphine as well, with Leandris and Ezreal.
You know how Riddle can be careful about this. They've lost 2 Barons to Faith. Has to look for another one here, Faith. He's made 2 steals happen. Do they go for the 50-50? Stefan's still hitting, but maybe wants to keep it at around 3k. No, they're backing off Fury on the flank. He's looking for Nash, taking him down to half. But haven't assassinated him yet. Now Fury down to half himself. Arcane Shift. This good amount of damage. Now Fury has to dash over the wall with the arc, with the perfect execution, rather, as Kevo follows suit. Now it's Riddle chasing Bifrost out the river, and they can't do anything. They have to run, they have to hide, as Riddle running towards them.
So many tools used for both teams. Jack's Black ultimate, the Encore as well, Kevo's ultimate, the Wish still being available for Riddle. You just feel like he's just gonna spell that Bifrost has to give this Drake up, and it's going to be the sole point for Riddle. I feel like at this point it's Riddle's game to lose. They have so many tools, and I feel like Bifrost doesn't really have the team comp to be able to deal with so many threats that are coming out from Riddle.
But how can you kill them? The 2 squishies have so much utility when they stand close to each other. So many shields, so many ways to displace the opponents, and Kevo can dish out a good amount of damage in short time to protect his supports. While Stefan and Jaxping in the front line can buy so much time with their natural tankiness and that death dance as well. That gives them the couple extra seconds to either get a return kill, heal back up, or buy time for his supports to back up around them and heal them up and sustain them in the fights.
For sure, right? I couldn't say it better myself. I really like this pickup coming in from Kill on the QSS. It's gonna allow him to dodge out on that counter-strike, right? If Jaxbank goes in, Kinos for sure has the damage to kill him if the counter-strike is down. He has the Dominic's regards, he has the blade as well. He does so much damage if he's able to hit. But that's the thing. If Riddle hits a good Encore with Phase, I think this is really, really hard to win against. Jaxbank, he is forced the Fury to be on the side lane, but they're also starting up the Nash on the other side.
You can definitely feel that Riddle have learned from their past 2 mistakes. They don't want to flip a Baron. Still though, they are starting it up. Let's see if they continue this time. They got down to 3k once. TP in from Jetspang, 9k. Kennel, eyes on him, he has so much damage. Shikari looks for the flank on the other side. 8k, dropping ever so low. Jetspang could jump over, flash forced away from Kennel. Encore already used TP in from Fury now. As the Drake, or Baron rather, falls to 6k. In goes Faith, but he can't lock anyone down. Here comes Shikari as well, but still, no one is dying from Riddle. They're all full HP. As Bifrost HP bars are melting. Fury now has to tuck tail and run. He can't assassinate anyone. He can't win this fight. He gets chased down by Kevo, as Shikari is in the wrong spot. All of Bifrost are in the wrong game. This is not a series you're winning. As soon as Riddle has something to say about it, yes, you get Kevo, but Fury will fall as well. That's 3. Might be even more here as Riddle continue to chase them down.
Jaxbank is going for more. Kill him with a good QSS though. Manages to fight back, but he's gonna get taken down. He has no flash. Jaxbank's a monster on this Jax.
They can kill him. The turret doesn't matter. He will run down. Quick timer. Bifrost were inches away from a 3-0, but Riddle say not today and prove why they will always be the top Norwegian org.
Was right. He predicted it. This Jax, if he gets into this 40-minute mark, he is gonna be able to take over. This is exactly what Jaxbank did. Faison, being the victim of so many ganks from Faith and Fury, is not enough to take out Riddle. And Riddle, in a best-of-5 series, is gonna do us justice. And they are gonna take down Bifrost in a bloody, bloody game. This is what I love to see. This is why I love to cast, man.
This is peak League of Legends. I cannot believe it. Back and forth for 5 games. None of these games were completely one-sided. Teams always fought back, always made it interesting. And I cannot believe it. Bifrost, they will be kicking themselves over that game too. I cannot believe it. How did that start? I kind of want to call it a reverse sweep because it felt like that, but they just started the reverse sweep that bit earlier by comebacking at the end of game 2 instead of losing it. Riddle, a well-deserved victory. That mental fortitude from coming back through so many rough situations, being down in so many games as well, but always coming back in the individual games as well.
Yeah, I mean, just kudos to them, right? As you were saying, they were finding themselves on the back foot in so many of these games, but always managed to stay on top. They never let Bifrost feel like they. I mean, Bifrost felt like they had the upper hand, right? But you could never really count out Riddle, and in the end, they get the dub. It's just so beautiful to see, man. On Jack's Plank Senior champion as well. I mean, it's just iconic.
I cannot believe it, and I don't have any more words to say. I think I've said it all about how amazing this series was to watch. I can't believe it. Bifrost out, Riddle going to the semi-final, and to discuss more about it, we are sending it over to Analyst Desk.
Yeah. Thank you, Duckling. That was a lot to take in. 5 games. Bifrost versus Riddle. I didn't think this day would go the way it went, in my opinion. Let's talk a little bit about the game 5 before we wrap up the entire series. Nightmare, where
Hello.
do you want to start?
Well, I think, gosh, it's really hard to know with this game actually because, coming out of that draft, we definitely knew if it came around to 5v5s later into the game, you're gonna struggle as a Renekton. I know that obviously I predicted that Bifrost would walk away with the win. I thought double Enchanter into the Jarvan, maybe that's a little bit spooky when you got an Akali flying in, but it realistically just didn't go that way. Bifrost didn't get enough of an early game lead like they had done in other parts of this series, and eventually it just got eclipsed by the 5v5 nature of what Riddle put on the table.
Let's bring the first replay. Let's keep this one short because we still need to do the interviews as well. We need to talk to the players, and they are probably exhausted.
Yeah, so here we have Jack's Plank just getting run down. I actually really like the match. Oh god, don't make me watch this again. I forgot what that replay was for a second. So in this replay, we have just Riddle dying across the board. Okay, and I don't want to say it's classic Riddle, but it is in the sense that they necessarily go even or behind, and then they outscale. This is the plan of all their drafts ever since I watched them first in summer. Right, and props to them. They really did stem the bleeding. After a while, they just stopped dying, and we were joking about how this is such a low kill per minute series, right? But this game, it just started. It really plateaued, right? After 4 deaths, I believe. And yeah, it's well done to Riddle because they stemmed the bleeding. They got to a point where they were comfortable. They were cross-mapping dragons instead of fighting, and then they got to their spike where Jax was just way stronger and he could utilize the enchanters.
Yeah, and I think that's the other story of this game, right? Because you've also had like mid lane being preyed upon an awful lot by Bifrost. They got 2 or 3 kills onto the Seraphine. At that point, I was thinking, okay, maybe that's enough of a lead. Maybe that's enough gold. But of course, that wasn't how it turned out at all.
Okay, let's bring the next one because we thought it was going in a way of, Renekton and the power on the top side. And this is really important to highlight because for the first time, Jack's Plank was ahead in the cities.
Yeah, and this champ is just, it looks a little bit unfair, doesn't he? He tanks like 7 tower shots and it just doesn't really matter. And he still ends up killing 3 under the tower alone, right? And at this point in the game, you gotta be worrying for Bifrost. They must know themselves that they've just been outscaled raw. You have a certain amount of damage, and if that doesn't overcome the amount of shielding and healing, it's just done.
Is that,
you know?
Ooh, is that a DPS check?
I feel like you
we
really
said
like
that
that
at all
term
today.
We going back? Oh, we going back, baby. Let's bring the last one, if possible, the last replay of the day, which highlights the entire series. The fact that Bifrost were looking on outplaying in solo lanes or even on solo moments, but it doesn't matter when the team fights resolve about team fights, like the entire team.
Yeah, and this is, I think this clip alone shows quite a lot, right? Because this is actually one of the few fights where the Varus actually gets to auto attack, and it still doesn't lead to anything huge, right? I think that one of the things that we saw throughout the series is that Bifrost would often try and play through lane, play through strong pushing advantages like the Varus, but you could see how that didn't give them quite enough. And particularly on the other side, when you have Jax Plank on something like he's named after it, right? On this Jax, there is just a point where if you haven't ended the game after this laning phase advantage, you are just completely lights out. And for Bifrost, this has got to feel so heartbreaking for them. It's so awful because you were on the verge of a 3-0. It realistically should have been a 3-0. Everyone saw how that game 2 went. We were sat there thinking this game is absolutely done and dusted. But Riddle, they hold on, they persevere, and they team fight like this with a composition completely geared towards it. And they run away with the whole series victory.
Yeah. Actually, that's something I want to ask about the second game, so that's why we're going to toss it to a break before we come back with the interview for Bifrost. I'll see you in a minute. Don't go anywhere. We are back and we have Fury, my man. Okay, let me just because you're looking good and I was looking a little bit short all of a sudden. Welcome to the interview. Obviously, not the result we were looking for, but it was a rough and rough series above all. I would like to talk to you about that because it seemed like the team was never coordinated. You got the solo kills, you got the 1v1, you went for the solo bolos. Everybody was going for those plays, but then when it reached the team fights, it didn't seem like the team was in agreement. Can you tell me why?
Uh, yeah, so for like most games, we were always ahead early game,
Mm-hmm.
but in mid game, I mean, they had a Seraphine comp. But what happened mostly is that we were just always pushing the waves in, but not really thinking about it. So they would just get VCS the whole time, and we can't force on the towers against them. So we always need to wait on objectives, and we always need to find TP flanks, because if we don't flank against Seraphine comp, then we can't win. But I mean, in fifth game, it was just too hard, and yeah, we don't have like a lot of experience as a team yet with the players, so the coordination was not there.
That's a lot to take in. Obviously, you need those flanks, and the team needs to be coordinated for that to be well executed. But I want to talk to you about you right now. The fact that this year was really long. You achieved a
Mhm.
lot. You went through a lot as well. What do you think is the highest thing you could take from 2022?
Uh, I would probably say like never give up. With like how springs happened, I didn't expect to go that far. Like every time I went into an A Masters match, I expected, okay, I'm
This
expecting
is
to go
it.
out against these teams,
Yeah.
because we never won against them in scrims. But like the underdog is a really nice buff, and it really helped me and the team in in spring. So I would say like even if scrims are going really bad, uh, just don't give up and like try to keep your mental strong.
And that's the last thing I have for you to ask. It's about the mental. You are a guy that gets affected not only by wins but by losses as well. We've seen that before. We talked about that before as well. So Fury, 2022 is over, I guess, competitively for you right now. I would like to
Hmm.
ask, what is your goal for 2023? I'm not asking where you're going to land. If I can get some sort of sneak peeks of, oh, where you going? Are you staying in Bife? I don't care about that. I want to understand what is your goal for 2023.
I mean, of course, in every region I will join. I wanna like win the league or do as best as I can. So
Hmm.
that's like my number one goal. Find a team that has the same goal. And I mean, I'm confident I will find a team that for next year. Maybe it will be an NLC, LFL, LVP. Who knows? But yeah.
Okay.
Besides that, it's been a nice year in NLC, and I liked your hosting, and the casting was really nice. So I have a good time watching back for this year.
My man. If you could delete any champion before you leave, which champion would it be?
Delete Jax.
My man, that's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you for the interview. Let's toss it to a break. I'll see you soon. I love you, my man.
Love
See
you, Fury.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the interviews. We have Kevo for the winning side. I heard you wanted to leave instantly.
What?
What's up with that? No, I'm kidding.
That's some serious slander, preposterous. Never said that.
Congratulations on Riddle making it through. You now have to face versus Dusty. But before we talk about that one, let's talk about the cities. First game, it's done. You jump into the second. You think the game is almost done as well. What is going on your mind? What did you feel before they kind of trolled a little bit and you guys capitalize on that? What was your feeling towards the cities?
Yeah, I mean, I thought this maybe gonna be a quick 3-0 for them. Like, I'll be honest, we haven't really screamed that much, and
Oh,
it kind of showed in the games as well. Like, we really haven't screamed for at least a week, maybe 2. So the first 2 games, we were just warming up, and then then we ramped up and managed to pick up the series. Some could say that we maybe kind of stole it a bit, but yeah, a win is a win. We take those.
a win is a win. But then it seemed like the synergy of the team just skyrocketed. Obviously, Jax Plank was getting. I don't know. There's a lot of things to say about Jax Plank on this series versus Shikar. It was a rough one, obviously, but it seemed like when you guys went into team fight, you guys were coordinated. Did you feel that, or it just happened?
I mean, I think in the game 5 as well, like our 5v5 is just so much better. Like as soon as we were done with draft, we were like, hey, we hard outscale them here. Like as long as we don't completely grief early game, which we, to be honest, we kind of did, but then like our comp just outscaled anyway, and we knew that after like the playing both with me and Jack Blank and Soraka ulti, we just knew that hey, we won this game right here. Like even though the Akali is like, I don't know, 4-0 or something, like what can he do against Seraphine and Soraka and Fedjax? Like we just knew that we outscaled them at that point.
You also had 2 enchanters, and your Ezreal was really, really clean. Everybody was confused about the Ezreal, like, interesting, the build path and all that, but you look really clean, by the way, so congratulations on that one. But you're moving now versus Dusty. That is another matchup, and I want to know your prediction. I want to know what is the biggest thing you're concerned about facing Dusty.
I'm concerned if they have more screams than us, then it might be a bit rough. But actually, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, haven't played them in such a long time. Like, I think it's gonna be a banger series anyway.
So, if you could tell me, what is the part of the map or team that you think Riddle is better than Dusty, and what is the other side? Like, what do you think Dusty is better at this moment?
I think you just want to hear the Jax Blank, so I'll say it. It's the,
I didn't
it's the
say
top
that.
side. Well, I mean, I saw the look on your face. Looking at
No.
looking at Jax Blank, looking at Stefan,
I'm just fishing, I'm just fishing. So, what do you feel about the bot lane? You versus the Voxne. How are you feeling about that matchup?
I mean, I think we went 1-1 in the regular season against them, so I think we're gonna be fine with Nash, to be honest. Like everyone thinks that they're obviously they won the league and did well in EU Masters, but I think we can hold our own for sure.
Okay, that sounds lovely. And just a prediction from the other side: JDXL versus Astralis. Who do you think is going to take it?
I think Astralis is gonna take it. I mean, people probably don't expect it, but I think JDXL is gonna choke a bit, and Astralis will take it probably 3-1.
This is why I like these moments. This is exactly why. Kevin, thank you so much for this one. I hope to see you soon, at least on the next interview, so we can talk. Either you win, either you lose. I don't know, but best of luck. And I hope you get some scrims.
Yeah, I hope so. Thanks for having me. Have a good night.
Let's toss it to the casters right now. That was lovely.
So
See you, Kevin.
if we have you in jungle, I'm mid, Aragon's top, we can get 2 of the other casters to play AD carry and support. We can scrim them.
Why would I
That's
go
my
jungle
master plan.
though?
Because you can play Pantheon.
You guys remember the world team that had to
Splendid.
scrim Team McDonald's?
Yes.
We could be
Yes,
our
I
own Team
did.
McDonald's. That'd be great.
Nice. I don't know what happened, but
Well, because
there
we're
you go.
out in Germany, we can be Team Späti instead. Maybe that'll fit a little more.
As we move on from this series, it was lovely. 5 games in a row. We now have Dusty versus Riddle. And on the other side, Astralis versus JDXL. Gentlemen, before we kick it off through the night, I want to get your predictions and who is going to win and why. Aragon.
Okay, 3-0 Dusty. I think they look too convincingly good, and I think that side of the bracket, the upper part of the bracket, was way more stacked.
I think in that series, I am going to give it to Dusty as well. I'm going to give it 3-1. I think that Riddle in this series showed that if you make mistakes, they have drafted and played to a standard which can allow them to get their scaling competitions online. And Dusty didn't play the cleanest games either. I think Natives actually could have gone 3-2 against them. So I think that Riddle are of a caliber which can knock a game or two off of Dusty. I'm going to go with 3-1 to Dusty.
Okay. Other side, GTXL Astralis.
I'm not going to agree with Kevo. I am going to go JDXL. Ooh, the score though.
Number,
That's the really
give me the number.
I think it's going to be 3-2 JDXL. I think on an individual level, we're not going to have like the huge outclasses that we've seen from some Div 1 versus lower division amateur teams. But I do think that with players like Dan being online, Dan, I believe, has the highest KDA in the tournament as well right now. And he was my real MVP for summer as well. I think that if he's on form, Astral's talent, while they have a lot of notable names and performances to their name at this point, I think JDXL are ahead of them in my eyes.
Okay. Eragon.
All right. My tier list had Dusty at the top, Native second, and then Astralis. So I'm gonna go with Astralis 3-1.
Oh.
Yep.
I like this. I mean, Eragon, you lost the quiz, but you did win the prediction game. So let's see how you hold up. I know this was probably your last day at Aurora Open. I'm going to toss it to you and Imana to say your goodbyes before we wrap up the show. Eragon, it's always a pleasure to have you with us. I hope I get to work with you on 2023.
Wait, are you saying he's going to be Eragon?
They made that pun 2 days ago. You can't do the same thing.
I can, and I have the sound effects to back it up.
Every single show, come up with something
You
new,
behave,
man.
okay? Behave, because you're not even British, so why are you here? Eragon, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, I'd absolutely love to come back with 2023 as an analyst. I think it's been an absolute blast being on this tournament. I've been on here so many times now just for the Aurora Open, and over the past 3 months, I think I've done like 8 shows. I've really enjoyed it.
I think for Myers as well. Yeah, it's it's a pleasure to be back on broadcast with you guys as well, but also just for the viewers and ourselves out there, it is just nice to have these extra games of these players through the split, getting to talk to them again. Because of course, it's been a little while since summer. We've had European Masters, but it's been a while since we've actually managed to talk to these players again. So seeing them back on stage, getting to see them back on the microphones as well when coming to the interviews, that's a special part of this event for me as well. Just kind of touching base with the players and seeing how far they can go.
It has been really special 2022 for everyone, and I hope to see you guys as well on the other side of the screen. Keep climbing the mountain. We miss you. And don't skip a beat. I'll see you soon.